So, our second indicator, economic indicator, which the government looks at and the people care about is the level of employment and unemployment in the economy. uh, जिसको हम उर्दू में रोज़गार बेरोज़गारी वगैरह कहते हैं. The first thing that you should be able to do is explain these terminologies, right? So for example, let's first define what is employment. So by definition, when we say employment, we say it is the work that people do in an economy. Also remember that these people who are performing whatever activity, they earn income. From these activities, and then obviously they use this money for expenditures and things like that. So then what is unemployment? So unemployment basically occurs when people want to work but they're not able to find work. Okay, so unemployment is when people are actively looking for work but cannot find it. There can be many reasons for it. We're going to talk about unemployment here, various reasons, mainly like frictional, structural, and cyclical. There are more, but these are the three major ones in your topic. So, unemployment is when you're looking for work but you cannot find it, so naturally you're unemployed. The third term, which we have again already discussed in macroeconomic objective, is what do we mean by full employment? So let me remind you once again. It was definitely not a situation where 100% of the people looking for work are getting work. That's not full employment. Maybe 95% of the people who are looking for work are able to find, but 5% unemployment still exists in the economy, तो जिसकी वजह से महंगाई नहीं होती. So to define full employment, we say it is a situation where majority of people looking for work are able to find work. However, there is still a little unemployment which avoids inflation if businesses wants to hire more. Usually what happens is कि अगर we would have said कि if 100% of people are employed and if businesses wants to expand and they need more workers, फिर उनको existing workers को higher wages offer करने पड़ेंगे, and that will bring inflation in the economy, the wage inflation. सो वी से कि इतनी अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट हमेशा होनी चाहिए कि if business wants to hire more people, inflation will not come, you will not have to offer them higher wages. तो full employment के अंदर भी there is a small percentage of unemployment. It can be 3%, it can be 5%, depending on the economic situations. So we'll go over some terminologies. We've dealt with these earlier also, but let's take a look at it again once again. So So these are some of the terms given. ये terms हो गए और ये जो है definitions हैं, but these are not the definitions. They're all jumbled up, so we have to match the respective ones. All right. So the first term, labor force. The definition is the total number of people of working age in work or actively seeking work. Next one is labor force participation rate. So what it means is the labor force as a proportion of the working age population. Basically, when we talk about participation, I'm going to talk about this right now, and then we'll go back to the terms. Participation rate. Basically, if I was to define what it really means, participation rate, it's basically the number of people available to work in an economy. Okay? So there's a formula for this, for the participation rate. You should know this because you will be expected to calculate this in MCQs or in the data response. So it's about labor force. Labor force we just did. Labor force is the number of people who are working or they are looking for work, divided by the working age population. Working age population, and working age population is the legal starting official wage rate to the retirement wage rate. All the people between 16 to 65 is the working age population, and you multiply this with 100 and you will know कि participation rate कैसा है. Now, as far as participation rate goes, this participation rate changes in the country due to various reasons. Let's go over those reasons. Number one reason could be for participation to change, could be just simple as social attitudes. So social attitudes tends to take culture into account also. Like for example, in some countries it is acceptable for women to go out for work. In some cultures it is expected for them to stay at home and take care of children and all. So in a changing trend, what we've seen is, like in Pakistan, what we've seen is that the social attitudes are changing a lot in the past decade, and more women are participating in work. And that's mainly because, number one, economically, they need to work because one person's income might not be enough. So, hence, to support the household, they have to go and work. Number two could be the changing dynamic of work environments. They're becoming more, women friendly and stuff like that. So, uski wajah se bhi they're coming out and working more. One could be because of technology like washing machines and ovens and microwaves and stuff like that. They're able to do their home chores a lot more quicker. So, they're able to come and work um, in the labor force. So I'll write in sum, if women participates more, then participation rate will increase women participation has increased due to, you could say, technology. They're able to do their work a lot more faster at home and then go to work. Number two, they are becoming educated, so they can definitely work. Number three could be work environments have become secure or safe for them to go and work. So as a result, participation is going to change. उसके अलावा your participation can also change based on the number of people going to schools and universities. If the number goes up, then participation rate is likely to fall down because they won't be able to work. Later on, you're going to have a much more skilled workforce, but right now, unfortunately, what's going to happen is that a lot of people are going to be going to school, so they can't participate, so later on, the participation rate is going to fall down. Okay. So let's go back to our terms. So if we talk in terms of number three, employment by industrial sector, it's about how many people work in agriculture, manufacturing industries, and other
This data
related
over
services.
here
Is showing us employment of China over the years. How has it changed from sector to sector, from industrial sector? So basically, what we've studied in the beginning is you have is that we have primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors, right? Primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors. I hope you're aware of this because primary sector is like agriculture, mining, natural resource extraction, extractionary industries. Secondary is more of manufacturing, and tertiary is more of service industries, right? So if we look at the China's data, what we see over here is that over the years, the primary percentage employment has gone down, whereas secondary industry has increased, not that much, about like 7%. The biggest increase we see happened in the tertiary sector. Over the years later, from 2008 onwards, would we see a similar trend? And if so, why? So you should be able to have a discussion on this then. So the way I'm going to explain how it works is, just remember one thing. When a country is developing, then you have a bigger percentage of employment in the primary industry and a very small percentage in the tertiary. But as the country progresses towards becoming more developed, we see this trend happen. Okay, and there are obvious reasons for it. Let's discuss those reasons. But first, I'm going to explain what is happening. The employment percentage is falling in primary sector, rising in secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. Would this pattern continue? We would expect this pattern to continue. Remember one thing, that primary के अंदर the wages tends to be very little. ठीक है, आप एग्रीकल्चर बेस्ड काम करते हो, आपकी इनकम्स इतनी ज़्यादा नहीं होती, बट एट द सेम टाइम योर स्किल लेवल इज नॉट दैट गुड ऑल्सो, and at the same time you can be easily replaced with technology and capital and machines and stuff like that. ठीक है, but tertiary sector has higher wages, you need to be more skillful, and chances are you are not that easily replaceable. So in the economy, over a period of time, people tend to get more educated, and then as the education goes up, they want to get paid more. So obviously, their incomes rise also with it. So over time, people get educated and more skillful, so they move to secondary and tertiary sectors. Their incomes rise, and they are not easily substitutable with capital. So this is what we mean by employment in industrial. So our fourth term is employment status. Employment status is about, are you full-time, are you part-time, are you in temporary work? This sort of like shows what kind of working contract you basically have. So when we talk about employment status, these are basically, this sort of like defines what contract you have. Are you a full-time? Are you a part-time? Are you self-employed? Are you just an employed worker? Private sector के अंदर हो, public sector में हो, are you a skilled employee? These are different employment status that is given to you. So a full-time person is very important to the economy. Most of the people in your economy will be working full-time. They will have a contract, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday or something. Part-time workers have the ability, they have flexibility, they can have other commitments that really allows the female participation rate to go up. That can be one of the reasons for it. A self-employed individual is a person who works for themselves. They start their own business hoping that in the future it's going to be worthwhile. An employed individual is somebody who works for someone. He can be working for government or the private sector. A private sector worker works for companies, okay, and these companies are hiring various people. Public sector is basically you are working for government as a civil servant or in corporation or something like that. And lastly, a skilled person is somebody who has acquired skill over a period of time. So these are different employment statuses that workers can be called. So as mentioned earlier, unemployment is about you are registered as being without work. Obviously you have to be part of the labor force. So there is actually unemployment का एक formula which you should know again for calculation reason. If you want to take out a country's unemployment rate, it's in percentage. It's about the number of people unemployed. So these people have to be registered that we can't find work, we're looking for it, divided by the labor force. Labor force have people who are working or are looking for work into 100. This is our formula for unemployment rate. We'll do a practice a little later, but when we talk about labor force, it is safe to also mention the labor force की definition, like we said before, that it's either you're working plus number of people looking for work. So your population is all the people in your country. So working age population is the number of people between the ages of 16 to 65. People below 16 and above 65, they are known as the dependent population. So your dependent population is the segment of people who depend on the person who's working. That's why they are dependent population. And then economically active people are those people who are working or are able to work. A lot like we can even say economically active people are your labor force. That's just another term for the labor force. Labor force are economically active people. Inactive people are those people who are choosing not to work. Okay, they can be anyone between 16 to 65, like students हो गए, convicts हो गए, they're choosing not to work. So given information is that you have 300 million की population, working age population is about 180 million, labor force they've already given to you is about 126, and the unemployed people are 6.3 million. So what you have to know is, before we even start this, is that you have a population from the age of 0 to whatever 100 plus or whatever, depending on what type of economy you are. The legal starting working age tends to be 16 and the retirement age tends to be 65. Mainly ये इसकी बात होती है. These numbers can change also, right? Now, this is your working age population from 16 to 65, shows your working age population. Now, remember, in working age population, everyone is not active. Okay? There are people like students, housewives, people with some sort of disability, convicts in jail. These are the people who we call them are economically inactive people. You understand that? And they are from the age of 16 to 65. If we take them out, people who are choosing not to work, even though they're from 16 to 65, they become the economically active people. And the economically active people, they tend to be your labor force. That means they're either working or they're looking for work. वो 16 to 65 की रेंज के अंदर ही होते हैं. People below 16 and above 65, they become your dependent population naturally. ठीक है. इस 16 to 65 में से जो लोग इकोनॉमिकली एक्टिव हैं, जो लेबर फोर्स है, who's choosing to work, who's participating to work, उनकी बेसिस पे तुम्हारा पार्टिसिपेशन रेट निकलता है. So you need to know some formulas here, and they are all applicable to you in O levels and A levels. So make sure that you understand them. सबसे पहले अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट के लिए you take the number of people unemployed and you divide that by with the labor force, economically active people. 16 to 65 में those who are choosing to work. All right. So based on our given information, you're going to take 6.3 divided by 126 into 100 gives you 5%. Okay, great. पार्टिसिपेशन रेट इज कि इस 16 to 65 में से आउट ऑफ योर वर्किंग एज पॉपुलेशन, वन सेकेंड, out of your working age population, how many people are actually participating or looking for work, or are they looking, or are they working? And so based on this, you have 126 people in the labor force out of 180. Multiplied by 100, you get your participation rate. That's a good participation rate. Now dependent population is number of people below 16 and above 65 divided by, they usually take working age population, should be वैसे तो labor force, but they take working age population, which is fine. और into 100 नहीं करोगे because it's supposed to be a ratio. So you have a population of 300, 180 people are the 16 to 65. So the leftover is about how many? 120 people are dependent on 180. So that gives you 0.67. That means that for every person who's working, 0.67 are dependent on them. It's a very low dependency ratio. It's a good dependency ratio. It can be on the higher side also, depending on if below 16 or above 65 is too many or not.